And as you come in, if you wanted to start opening your wines that you've got for the tasting, that's worth having them open right away. And then Julio will be explaining how we're going to do the tasting. So it's this way. There.
Hey, Michael.
Hello, and whoever that was.
Carl.
Hi, Carl. How you doing?
Good, good.
Good. There's a lot of people coming in all at once.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good. Hello, everybody. As you come in, we're going to take a minute or two here to let people come in until we've got everybody. We're at 37. We're expecting about 50 or so. Yes, Anais? Yeah. Looks like people are ready with all their glasses put out. Did everybody get find the tasting sheet inside their box and set out their glasses as the tasting sheet said you should?
Can you see?
Oh, yeah. There's
I have it. I have
you
it.
got it. You got on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good.
All right, we're good.
Okay, shall we lay the glasses over the placemats there?
Yes, absolutely. If you want to set out your placemats and set your glasses out and get your wines open, and then once we get started, Julio will give you some instruction on how that's going to go.
Yeah. I don't think we got a placemat. We ended up with a broken glass in one of the boxes, so we were not inclined to look too far into it.
Oh, shoot. Okay, well, did you tell us about it? Did we replace it?
Oh, we've got the replacement glass arrived a day or so ago, thank goodness.
Oh, good.
However,
Good.
I don't know what these sheets are that we were supposed to be using.
Yeah, so in fact, those boxes had been tested for a 10-foot drop. So
Well, I don't know. They were not very well padded, that's for sure. And the glasses.
yeah, Canada Post must have given it a good drop kick to break one.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Maybe they just tossed them out of the plane flying overhead. I don't know.
It's just, it was a shocking experience.
So we're still at 39. It's 3:03. So if you don't mind, everybody, we're going to give another minute or two. But those of you who have just joined us, if you want to take out your tasting mat and set it in front of you and lay out your glasses based on what's on the tasting mat. Those who didn't get the tasting mat, the Chardonnay is the number 1, the Riesling is number 2, the Pinot Noir is number 3, and the Cabernet is number 4.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello. And just so you know, at some point, once we start doing the presentation, we'll mute everybody and then people will raise their hands. I wanted everybody to be on before I explain to you how you do that. So in another minute or so, I'll explain. Most of you will be familiar with Zoom now that COVID has us all so comfortable with it. And I'll explain how this is going to work, and then I'll introduce Julio and off we will go.
Are you good?
So thank you for your patience. It's a large group, but Julio says he's got no problem. He's done up to 600. Is that what you said, Julio?
Not me personally, but I've definitely been part of it.
Right. All right, well, why don't I explain how this works? So if everybody is seeing their screens, you'll see along the bottom when you move your cursor that to the left is mute and stop video. So if you ever wanted to mute yourself or stop your video, you can. But again, Anais can control all of us, and she's going to mute everybody when we get to that point. So then if you click on participants, then participants will come up over in the right-hand side, and you'll see halfway down, you can invite, mute me, or raise hand. So what we'd like you to do, if you have a question during the tasting, just click raise hand, and a hand will come up beside your name, and Anais is going to keep an eye on that. Then also there's the chat beside participants. If you click that, it'll open up on the right-hand side as well. And you can ask your questions by typing them in. If you'd rather wait and ask verbally, then just wait for Anais to acknowledge you. She'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask the question. Okay, and we're now at 44, so, and we're at 3:06. So I think we're going to get started. What I'd like to do to begin with, just to tell you the format, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Opimian side of all of this and what's happening. And then I'm going to put you over to Julio, who's going to run the tasting. And then at the end, I'm going to say a little bit more about the Riedel glasses. I'd like to thank Anais for setting this up and for being our moderator today. There she is. And Wayne Bentley is our local sales rep for Riedel. And I appreciate it, Wayne. Thank you for all you've done to get us here. And Julio is here to do the tasting. Thanks for making the time, Julio. Through COVID, it's a very busy time for all of us. So thank you all of the Opimian members who have joined us. As you can see, it's a fairly large group, and I'm really, really pleased about that. We're at 44 now, including the 4 of us that are organizers. We're in the middle of C279 right now, which is California and Spain, and Oregon as well. So that closes on Monday. So I'm sure we're telling you enough, but just be aware that it closes on Sunday. There invariably, every time a seller closes, we get about 40 or 50 orders on Tuesday with the people begging us to put them in. So try and get your orders in, please. I can tell you that several of the wines in here would be perfect for this tasting. And I know that if you wanted to order them for next year, you'll still have these glasses, of course. So one of the things was the Stone Valley Chardonnay would have worked really well with this. The Cab Sauv from Butterfly Ridge would be really good in the Cab Sauv glass. And I've ordered the mixed cases of Halloran Pinot Noir, which I'm looking forward to trying these glasses when they arrive in the new year. So that's one thing to remember. There's going to be a very special, very small offering during what we call the dark time, when there isn't an offering up. So Wednesday, if I told you today what's going to happen, I'd have to kill you all. So I'm not going to do that. But you're going to have a very special offering by email on Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll be telling you all about that and giving you opportunities to ask us questions about that. And then on October the 5th, we're opening the second annual bonus seller offering, which is, we're calling it CWeb 20. It's online only. And so you'll be able to go to the website and see 64 different wines. They're all from Italy and France. And what we did was, because of COVID in Europe, they shut down all of hospitality as we did here. And there are many small vineyards in France and Italy that only sell to the trade. So they were only selling to bars and restaurants. So they lost all of their business for several months. So we asked our existing partners over there if they could find friends and partners in their area. And we got submissions. We got about 120 submissions and chose the best 64 from that. And so you're going to be able to buy wines that are never available in Canada before, and maybe never again, as well. As the bars and restaurants open again, we may not be able to sell them to you next year, but they are going to be pretty special. And we're going to have some online bits like this to explain those wines, so you know what you might be interested in. So with that, I'm not going to take too much more time. I wanted to introduce Julio, who has joined us here from Riedel. He's the Eastern sales manager for the United States, and he knows all about the performance set of glasses that you have in front of you. And over to you, Julio.
Great. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm dialing in from sunny New Jersey, so just south of you guys, and it's a little chilly. I'm not sure how chilly it is up for you guys, but it's about 17 degrees your temperature, 63 in New Jersey. So very beautiful start to the day, and hopefully everybody's enjoying so far. But thank you, Opimian Club members. Thank you, Wayne, for allowing us to be here to show you what Riedel is all about. And by the way, that is how you pronounce the name of the company, Riedel. A lot of times it's mispronounced Riedel, but it is Riedel. And just as a friendly reminder, it does kind of sound like needle. So Riedel like needle. So the next time you see the name, you can easily pronounce it. So today we're going to be trying 4 different wines in the 4 glasses that everybody has at home. And I always like to have a little bit of a 101 because we want to make sure everybody's enjoying the same experience. So At this point, everybody should have their glasses in front of them in a table mat that was neatly folded in each of the tasting sets that everybody provided. And if you look at the table mat, you notice that each glass has a number. So for example, glass number 1, our Chardonnay glass. Glass number 2, your Riesling glass. Glass number 3, your New World Pinot Noir glass. And glass number 4, your Cabernet Sauvignon. And per the email that was sent out when everybody received it, you should also have a control glass, whether it be your favorite Riedel glass or maybe non-Riedel glass. But we definitely need another vessel as a 5th element of the tasting. So I hope everybody's ready with that regard. I know everybody's kind of using wines that are in their cellar or perhaps something that you went out to purchase just before the event, but hopefully everybody at least has the varietals that are needed for the event. So again, Oak Chardonnay, glass number 1, a dry Riesling in glass number 2, a Pinot Noir, Burgundy, red Burgundy in glass number 3, or a Bordeaux varietal or Cabernet Sauvignon in glass number 4. So I hope everybody at least has these general varietals that these glasses can definitely perform on. And at this point, I would love for everybody to, if you have not already done so, you can already pour the wines into the correct glasses. We just need your empty non-Riedel or Riedel 5th glass that we asked you to have all on board. So let us know when you're ready with that. And as we're doing that, I want to give you a little bit of history with regards to the company. We're actually currently celebrating 264 years as a family-owned company based out of Kufstein, Austria. Currently 11 generations, head of Maximilian Riedel and George Riedel, who are the current family members owning the company at this point. In business for 264 years, but we have not always been in the wine glass industry. We've only been in the wine glass industry for maybe about 70 years or so. And it was actually a glass that was introduced, I believe, in the mid-1950s. You may be familiar with it as the Sommelier Burgundy Grand Cru glass. And from that point forward, we have created a lot of different varietal specific stemware. I've only named 4 different varietals, but we have so many different. Trust me, you guys are gonna love this in case you've never done this before. But what it is that each glass is meant for a specific grape. Think of it like a game of golf. You have many different golf clubs depending on the tee and of course the course itself, right? So this is what Riedel is all about. So if you look at the 4 glasses in front of you, look at them. Look at them very good, because you notice that there are 4 different shapes. There's 4 different sizes, 4 different brim diameters, different shape, not different shape, also different bowl sizes. And you notice when we go through the tasting, how the different aromas are gonna go from one glass to the next. And that is what we want you to learn today. In case you've never done a Riedel wine glass seminar before, we want you to walk away from this event today and say, oh my God, I've never enjoyed this wine better than I've ever had before. And that is gonna be my goal. I am going to obliterate everything that you've done before, and hopefully from this point forward, you can only drink out of Riedel. So that is my goal for today. So again, hopefully everybody's pouring the wines. We'll talk a little bit about the collection itself. Riedel has a lot of different collections, but this one that we're all trying today is called Performance. And if you gently pick up your glass number 4 and give it a quick swirl, you notice that each glass has an optic design. And this is what Riedel calls an optic impact. And if you gently place your hand inside of the glass, number 4, you actually feel the ridges of the glass versus the outside of the glass is completely smooth. And what this is, it actually helps to aerate the wine. So these ridges are like waves hitting rocks in an ocean, an explosion of oxygen. So as we swirl wine, there's more aeration occurring in the glass, and thus relaxing some of the tannins that some of these wines have. So this is what Performance is all about. It's not that the design has a flaw in it. No, they're actually meant to have this optic design on the inside so that it has a maximum exposure of oxygen and releasing a little bit more of the aromas, and thus softening some of the tannins, some of the acidity levels, some of the sugar levels and so forth. And you'll notice from one glass to the next how that definitely does help. On top of that, I like to call this collection kind of like the cashmere sweater of wine glasses, because when you picked up glass number 4 and you gently swirled it to see the optic design, you notice that it's a very lightweight glass. Very beautiful glass, but it's very smooth, very fine. And this is what Performance is all about. So I hope you guys enjoy so far. So I hope everybody has now the wines in front of them. And we're actually going to start with glass number 2. Glass number 2, which is your Riesling glass. So let's go ahead and pick up your glass number 2, which is your Riesling glass. And let's go ahead and give it a quick swirl. Hopefully everybody knows how to swirl by this point. If not, I can't see you, so don't worry. And as we swirl the wine, we notice this beautiful design in the glass. And let's go ahead and swirl once more, and then let's go ahead and dive right into the glass. And again, depending on the wine that we chose, and of course, we're all going to have a little bit of a different aroma. I chose a Finger Lakes, New York dry Riesling, fairly close to home and hopefully close to you as well on the Canadian border. But on the nose, for me, because I chose a very dry Riesling, I get beautiful exotic notes on my glass. Again, depending on what you have, maybe you get a bit more, not as much as I get for sure, depending on what region you've chosen or the vintage that you've chosen. But for me, my glass for sure screams exotic notes for sure. And this is what we love about a Riedel glass. Don't taste it, by the way. That's my first rule. Don't jump ahead. I know I can't see you, but we have little spy bots. I think Anais is looking at everybody, so she's going to red flag you in case you drink ahead. So on the nose, you notice beautiful bright aromas coming out. And this is what I love about nosing wine for the first time. In my glass, the wine that I've chosen, I definitely want to drink it right away because the aromas are so pleasant. And this is exactly why we nose the wine, on top of making sure that the wine is not corked, right? So on the nose once more, beautiful aromas. And when we take a sip from this glass, you're actually going to notice that it's going to hit you at the tip of the tongue, bringing out the minerality of the wine, the acidity, and balancing all the fruit components. So go ahead and take a sip. And again, because I've chosen a dry Riesling and we asked you to also have a dry Riesling at home, you notice that the wine hits you at the tip of the tongue. Beautiful acidity, minerality that pops. But look at the fruit component that follows. Not a dry wine, even though it is a dry Riesling, which just means no sugar or very little sugar. But you notice that right at the tip of the tongue, beautiful minerality, the acidity is balanced, and wow, beautiful fruit component that follows. Again, this is my wine of choice. Perhaps maybe you have a little bit something semi-sweet with a little bit of a sweet component to it, but overall pleasant. And again, focus on the wine hitting you on the tip of the tongue. Go ahead and take another sip. Towards the tip of the tongue, acidity, minerality, fruit component, all balanced, very pleasant. The wine also appears. Not a dry wine, not a bitter wine, quite nice for sure. First experiment is please pour the contents of your Riesling glass into your fifth glass. Hopefully it's a Riedel glass, or at least the glass that you only use at home on a daily basis, whether you're drinking red or white. That's the one that's closest to you, right? So choose that glass, and let's go ahead and nose the wine in that vessel that you've chosen as your fifth glass. For me, I chose another Riedel glass, of course, because I have nothing else at home. But it's a kind of a quote-unquote all-purpose glass. But on the nose, for me, the nose has changed.
It's changed, yeah.
Good to know. So on the nose, again, when I had the bright exotic components out of the right glass number 2, out of this glass, it's a bit more muted, the wine, and not exactly as vibrant, not exactly as friendly. What does that say? It's like meeting a person for the first time. Out of glass number 2, you were like, okay, wow, this is nice. But out of glass that is the control glass, as you call it, it's not exactly as pleasant. I'm not really sure about the wine because on the nose, you don't get that vibrant aroma that you were looking for. So let's go ahead and take a sip and let's see how the structure of the wine changes on that fifth glass. And even though it's another Riedel glass, the wine for me, it's a bit more dry. It's a bit more bitter. And the same crisp acidity that we enjoyed actually is a bit flatter. And there's a bit more of a green component that comes out of the wine. And not exactly as pleasant as it was out of the correct glass number 2. So enough suffering. Let's pour it back into the correct glass. Glass number 2, which is perfected for Rieslings. Let's see what it does on the nose, back in the correct glass number 2. And the aromas are back. Amazing, right? Again, just like meeting a person for the first time in this glass. I like it. I can't wait. And let's go ahead and take a repair sip. Pouring it back into the right glass, we get the aromas back. We get the acidity levels, the fruit component, the minerality that the wine has to offer, all beautifully balanced. Again, when we poured it into the 5th glass, everything that we're now enjoying and had enjoyed out of the first sip has been completely returned. But out of the incorrect glass, you notice how the wine becomes very unbalanced. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a Riedel glass, an expensive glass, inexpensive glass. It depends on the vessel, the shape and sizes, which we're going to continue to expand on momentarily. But glass number 2, hopefully you all enjoyed a dry Riesling. And unfortunately, this glass you can only enjoy Rieslings out of. Out of the next 3 glasses, there's other varietals that you can enjoy, but glass number 2, only Rieslings, dry Rieslings to be a little bit more specific. So I hope everybody enjoyed that first experiment. So because we're all professionals, we don't chug wines. I know it's only about 3:15 p.m. or 3:20 at this point, but what we want to do is we need glass number 2 empty, which does not mean chug. Please park it in your control glass number 5 because we need glass number 2 for the next experiment. Good, so I'll give everybody a few seconds, but I hope everybody enjoyed that first wine, and hopefully you all chose some nice wines today. So I chose a Finger Lakes, New York Riesling from Herman J. Not sure how to pronounce the last name, but Weimer, 2018 dry Riesling from Seneca Lake AVA. So hopefully you guys perhaps may be able to find it. If not, whatever Riesling that you chose hopefully worked perfectly well. Good. So glass number 2 empty, and I hope everybody has enjoyed so far. Heard a lot of people commenting. I see a chat. I'm not sure if Anais wants to say anything, but oh, somebody's using an international certified tasting glass. Good. All right. So we enjoyed the Riesling out of glass number 2 towards the tip of the tongue. Now, if you look at glass number 1, a much more opulent glass, and here we are going to be trying an oaked Chardonnay. And I chose a Central Coast, California, 2018 from Dow Vineyards, one of our partners over there. Let's go ahead and pick up glass number 1, which is meant for oak Chardonnay. And you notice right away, hopefully you've chosen a very well-aged or not mid-aged, but well-oaked wine, because you notice the color of the wine as well compared to the Riesling, how much darker it is. But on the nose, glass number 1. And again, I chose a very traditional Central Coast oak Chardonnay wine, which in this glass, you notice the aromas just pop. For me, because I have a very traditional oak Chardonnay, I get a very buttery note, kind of like a popcorn note for me specifically. But if you look at glass number 1 compared to glass number 2, you notice that the rim diameter is much larger. So glass number 2, remember when we took a sip from this glass, it actually hits you towards the tip of the tongue, which is perfectly balanced for the dry Riesling that we just enjoyed. But now that we're enjoying an oak Chardonnay, we do not want it to hit us at the tip of the tongue, thus the larger bowl. And this bowl, you notice when we take a sip for the first time, it's actually going to hit you more towards the middle of the palate, balancing the high acidity that the wine has to offer, but also bringing out the fruit component. So let's go ahead and nose the wine once more. On the nose, glass number 1. Again, depending on what you have, maybe a little bit of an oak note, some vanilla notes on the more traditional oak Chardonnays, but for me, very buttery for sure. Very friendly, very inviting. So let's go ahead and take a repair sip. I wouldn't say a repair sip, but a friendly sip from glass number 1, and focus on the structure of this wine and how the wine is delivered compared to the first glass that we just enjoyed. Take a sip, glass number 1. Again, did not hit you at the tip of the tongue. Towards the middle of the palate. Here comes the little bit of the acidity that the wine has to offer, but whoa, look at this fruit component. Not a dry wine, actually quite pleasant, very buttery, beautiful notes that are expressed on the palate. And then overall, the wine continues to express itself. Not a dry wine, not a bitter wine, beautiful fruit component, very nicely balanced. Let's go ahead and take another sip and focus on the temperature of the wine. Hopefully you all paid attention to the instructions to cool down your wines ahead of time, very important. Go ahead and take a sip. Again, towards the middle of the palate, acidity's there, fruit component, beautifully layered, and again, balanced. I keep throwing the word balanced because every time that you enjoy the correct varietal specific in a Riedel glass, you notice that the fruit in the wine is balanced as opposed to too much alcohol, too much bitterness, too much acidity and so forth, too much sugar. but in this glass, this wine is perfectly balanced. So the second experiment, we're actually going to pour your oak Chardonnay glass number 1 into your empty Riesling glass number 2, because I had no control of your first experiment because I had no idea what glass you chose, but now I know that there's these 4 Riedel glasses we can definitely control. So your oak Chardonnay into your empty glass number 2, which is what we use for Riesling. We just enjoyed, hopefully you just enjoyed the one that you chose for glass number 2. Let's see what it does out of a glass that's meant to balance Riesling. Let's see what it does on the nose. And for me, the wine is very muted now. It's very one-dimensional. If you pick up your empty glass number 1, just as a refresher, you notice that with a drop of wine in the glass, you still get the full spectrum of aromas versus a full glass in an incorrect glass. The same wine. Is it the same wine? Because on the nose, I do not get the same notes. Again, very muted, very one-dimensional, and for me, maybe just a hint of alcohol coming out, which is, again, not exactly as friendly as it was from glass number 1. Let's go ahead and see what it does on the palate. Remember, we enjoyed the dry Riesling out of this glass. Let's see what it does for oak Chardonnay. What happened to this wine? It's a bit more bitter, very dry. Again, it did not hit you at the middle of the palate. It actually hits you at the tip of the tongue. And the same wine that we just enjoyed has now been, what happened to it, right? So even though it's another beautiful Riedel glass, it was used incorrectly. So the same acidity, fruit component that we enjoyed out of glass number 1 now has been completely lost. And imagine if you tried this wine for the first time in the glass number 2. Not exactly a cup of tea, perhaps, right? Let's go ahead and pour it back into your glass number 1, the correct oak Chardonnay glass. And let's go ahead and nose the wine. It's back. And let's go ahead and take a repair sip out of the oak Chardonnay glass. Again, acidity's back, the fruit component, the oak aging, all the beautiful components that the wine has to offer, all there, beautifully expressed, nicely layered, bright, as opposed to the incorrect glass number 2, which you notice appeared to be very muted and not exactly as fun as it was from the correct glass number 1. So I hope you guys enjoyed that tasting, because glass number 1 is only meant for oaked Chardonnay. We do have a glass for unoaked Chardonnay or Viognier as well, but glass number 1 is only meant for your traditional oak Chardonnay, your white Burgundy, Montrachet wines as well. So anything I would say with oak age Chardonnay, perfect out of glass number 1. So, and as a matter of fact, if I were to ask you if glass number 1 did not have a white wine in it, I would ask you, do you think this is a good red wine glass? I bet you some of you would say yes. And we're actually going to show you why this glass is absolutely the worst glass for red wine in the next experiment. So I need glass number 1 empty. Again, no chugging because we're professionals. We still have to probably entertain later some of our friends and families. So go ahead and pour that.
Sorry, Julio, we have a question from Julie. She's
Yeah.
asking if it's a good glass for Chablis.
You can, no, it is not. Actually, the Riesling glass would be, out of the 4 glasses in front of you, the Riesling glass would be the better Chablis glass. We do have a Sauvignon Blanc glass in the collection that would be a perfect Chablis glass. Yeah, the glass number 1 would not be a good Chablis glass. Good. Now,
Thank you.
You can try it, compare it yourself, because listen, I can tell you all day what glass goes perfect, but at the end of the day, if you like one glass versus the next, to each their own, for sure. Good? All right, shall we continue?
Yeah, thank
We're
you.
doing okay on time? I think we're good so far, right?
Yeah.
I see my friend Wayne Bentley's decanting another bottle of wine, so good for you. All right, so I hope everybody has enjoyed so far. Again, I've chosen Dow Vineyards Paso Robles Chardonnay 2018. I wanted to choose some American wines, of course, because that's what I mostly have access to. I hope whatever wine you chose out of glass number 1, you notice that the oak aging of the wine was very nicely expressed with some of the buttery, creamy notes that were expressed out of the glass number 1. Good. So I hope everybody has enjoyed so far the 2 wines that you have chosen, and more importantly as well, the pairing of the correct glasses that are in front of you. Good. So as we continue, now we move on to red wine. So hope everybody in the group enjoys red wine. And the next wine that the next glass that we will enjoy is actually glass number 3, which is Pinot Noir. For sure, one of my favorite types of varietals, and probably one of the most beautiful wine glasses that we have introduced out of glass number 3. Before we try the wine, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kind of how this collection is geared more towards New World wines. And when we talk about New World wines, we're talking about basically anything outside of Europe, okay? Because glass number 3 was actually a workshop glass that was introduced about 14 years ago or so, or 15 years ago, out of our Oregon Wine Association partners, where we have a traditional Burgundy Pinot Noir glass that if you pick up glass number 3, it's basically this glass cut right up to here. And that was a glass that was introduced about 40 years ago. But the Oregon Wine Growers Association came to Riedel again about 15 years ago and said, you know what, we love your Pinot Noir, but we really believe that our Pinot Noirs are a little bit different than our counterparts in Europe. So we actually did a workshop, and the workshop glass, besides this optic design, it was a very similar shape and size to what you see in front of you with this little lip. And this little lip here is what we call an acidity bumper. And you'll notice when we try from glass number 3 that the wine is actually gonna almost kiss you directly at the tip of the tongue, bringing out some of the natural sweetness that the wine has to offer, but also balancing the acidity that Pinot Noir has to offer. So I hope you guys enjoyed so far. Glass number 3, I've chosen a Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir from our partners, Landmark Vineyards 2016. So let's go ahead and pick up glass number 3. And on the nose, let's see what we get. Again, I've chosen a very traditional Pinot Noir from California, Sonoma. And I have, for me, one of the most beautiful noses in wine, which is a bit of a lavender note, definitely some dry red fruit, raspberries, cranberries, and so forth. But one of the most beautiful noses in wine is Pinot Noir in the correct glass. And I hope you've all chosen, if not an American Pinot Noir, a red Burgundy that is a young, vibrant, or maybe even a Nebbiolo as well, which we'll talk about some of the different varietals that can go in this glass as well. But on the nose, for me, dry red fruit, beautiful components, and again, very inviting. You get lots of beautiful components that say, wow, I cannot wait to try. So, quick recap. Glass number 2, tip of the tongue. Glass number 1, towards the middle of the palate. When you look at glass number 3, you're going to notice that the rim diameter is a little bit narrower. And if you pick up glass number 1 and glass number 3 and put them side by side, you actually notice that they have the same exact bowl. However, the Pinot Noir, as we talked about, has this little lip. What that tells us is that Pinot Noir, just like Chardonnay, oak Chardonnay, has acidity. But what Pinot Noir has different is the skin of the grape adds a little bit of tannins. You all know that we can make white wine from red grapes by squeezing the juice, but we get the color of red wine by, of course, leaving the skin. But by doing so, you get a little bit of the green components that the wine has to offer, so what we call it bitterness, which Pinot Noir has, but very lightly. So let's go ahead and experience glass number 3, once again, on the nose. I hope you guys chose a very nice Pinot. On the palate, go ahead and take a sip. You notice how you kind of have to tilt your head back a little bit to take a sip from this glass. Just behind the tip of the tongue. The acidity in the wine, very nice, right? Beautiful fruit component. Siri's asking me what I want, sorry about that. Beautiful fruit component that follows, but look at how silky smooth this wine is to follow. I think a lot of people, and I was one of those, I tried Pinot Noir for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is a bitter wine. It's dry. What the hell could people thinking about? But in this glass, you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Go ahead and take another sip. And I hope you guys chilled your red wines as well. So important to cool down your red wines, especially on a nice day like today. Notice how you have to tilt your head back a little bit. The wine delivered just behind the tip of the tongue. Here comes the acidity. Here comes the fruit component, a little bit of the tannins that has to offer, but again, all beautifully balanced. And you notice what a beautiful long aftertaste the wine has to offer. Good. So again, depending on the wine that you've chosen, maybe some different characteristics, but at the end, balanced. So the next experiment, I want you to pour glass number 3, which is our Pinot glass, into your empty Chardonnay glass. Remember, before we tried the Pinot, I asked you who would think that glass number 1 might be a great red wine glass. Let's see if this is accurate. So on the nose, Pinot Noir out of glass number 1. Where's my wine? Where's the beautiful red fruit that we just nosed out of glass number 3? Where is it? If you were blindfolded and I asked you what is in this glass, you would say, what's in this glass? I have no idea because there's 0 aromas coming out. Maybe a hint of alcohol. And if you pick up your glass number 3, once more, your empty Pinot Noir glass, the wine's still there. But out of an incorrect glass, even though we enjoy oak Chardonnay in this glass, Pinot Noir on the nose appears to be lost. Let's go ahead and take a sip. This is where it becomes a little bit hectic because now the wine is bitter and dry, and that Pinot Noir that you've chosen now has been completely lost. Imagine you bought this wine to do a food pairing, a salmon or a nice steak. Very dry, very bitter. You actually want to reach for a glass of water because your mouth is almost salivating because the acidity is unbalanced, much more bitter, much more dry the wine appears, and not exactly the fun fruit-forward wine that we just enjoyed out of glass number 3. Good? So, enough suffering. Back into glass number 3. Let's get a repair nose here. The wine is back. And let's take a sip. The structure of the wine is back. The acidity, the fruit component, the tannins, all beautifully expressed on your palate. As opposed to glass number 1, which is the Arc Chardonnay glass, was very unbalanced, kind of like a tidal wave coming at you, and the same Pinot Noir that we enjoyed at glass number 3 was completely lost. But back into glass number 3, again, what a very friendly, fun wine to enjoy. So hopefully everybody had that experience.
I had a question, if it's okay. Carl Bird from Montreal.
Yes.
Well, first comment is that I really notice a difference more, especially in this wine, changing the glass. You're right. All I got was some chocolate on the nose and then that bitter acidity on the tongue and the fruit was gone. But my question is, you mentioned something about that these glasses were made for old world. So you say in this range of glasses, you have different glasses for new world? And if you do, what is different between the two glasses?
So what I mentioned was that these glasses are meant more for new world wines.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Sorry, yeah, new world.
You said old world, okay.
Did I mistake, yeah.
The reason why I say that is because these glasses are much larger than what we would probably recommend for our old world wines. And the reason why we say that is because traditionally speaking, our old world partners, Italy, France, Spain, and so forth, have less acidity, less alcohol levels, and they don't need such large vessels. Within this performance collection, they're basically all meant for what we would consider new world wines. We do have other collections that are probably meant more for traditional or maybe old world wines or maybe even older wines. Because as we talked about performance, these ridges in here, they are designed to help aerate wine, meaning young wines like we're enjoying, like I'm enjoying. I'm not sure what everybody's enjoying at home, but the young wines that I'm enjoying can definitely appreciate having a little bit more oxygen in it. When we talk about oxygen, especially young wines, we talk about softening the tannins, softening the acidity, and boosting the fruit component. So that's why this performance, for me personally, I would probably enjoy more new world wines or younger wines. Generally speaking, most of the glasses that Riedel produces, if I say it's a Burgundy glass or Pinot Noir glass, they'll generally have the same shape and design because the characteristic of where the wine lands on your palate is not going to change New World versus Old World. What may change is maybe the rim diameter a little bit or maybe the circumference of the bowl because the aromas will also change. So, but within the performance collection, it's only going to be what we would consider more New World wines. However, there is an Hermitage glass in the collection, a Syrah glass, that can actually be a bit more of an Old World wine. But generally speaking, the 4 glasses in front of you can work for either. I'm just letting you know that they're probably a little bit more perfected for New World wines, and only talking about because of higher acidity levels, and a little bit more of the tan is because of the sometimes a little bit more sunlight and so forth.
Yeah.
So hopefully that
So
works.
3 of the wines I chose were New World. But the Riesling was an Old World from Alsace, of course, because if you're going to go Riesling, you're going to go Alsace.
Of course.
And it was spectacular in that glass.
This glass is perfect for it, because I'll tell you one thing. And it's funny because this Riesling glass, you notice it's actually a very large Riesling glass.
Yeah, it's huge.
And if you look at the screen in front of me here, the glass that I chose as my 5th glass is actually our traditional Riesling glass, which is a glass that we actually introduced maybe 30 or 40 years ago. So look at the size difference between the two. Riesling glass 40 years ago, Riesling glass now. And again, we're talking about higher acidity levels. Of course, as we know, temperatures are getting warmer and warmer, longer months and so forth. So glass number 2 is a perfect Alsatian Riesling glass for sure. Yeah. So again, depending on the wine that you've chosen, it can be a perfect glass. Good. I think we're good for questions for now.
We have
Right.
another question. George is asking if you're offering a performance tasting set for Old World wine.
No, unfortunately not. And again, I'm not saying that these glasses will not work for Old World. Again, I know that there's certainly people in this group that are trying Old World Bordeaux's and Burgundies and so forth. 100% it'll work. All I'm trying to say is that these glasses, I would say, a little bit more perfected for New World wines because of the ridges inside of it, meant to balance a little bit more of the higher acidity levels and alcohol that, for example, our California wines would have, as opposed to, let's say, a traditional Bordeaux and so forth. Good. All right. So I know we just enjoyed glass number 3, Pinot Noir. What I would love to say about glass number 3 is that you can try a lot of different grape varietals out of glass number 3. Glass number 3, of course, is meant for Pinot Noir. You can also enjoy Barolos in it. You can enjoy Barbarescos. You can enjoy Nebbiolos, your traditional red Burgundies as well. But the best thing that you can enjoy out of glass number 3 is actually Rosé Champagne. Yes, Rosé Champagne, Blanc de Noir, Pinot Noir dominated Champagne. The best glass is number 3, 100% hands down. Think about the last time that anybody here tried champagne. And I'm not talking about just drinking champagne, because every time that we go to a wedding, talking about pre-COVID, right? Back in the day when we used to go actually out and enjoy friends and family, imagine the flute, which we just drink champagne. Nobody ever knows the champagne because the flute, unless you want to snorkel, you can't nose the wine, right? But if you're talking about a rosé champagne, Pinot Noir dominated champagne, glass number 3 brings out beautiful components that we have never enjoyed previously. Good. However, the best thing that glass number 3 is best for in regards to champagne is the effervescence. We all know that champagne has effervescence, but sometimes drinking champagne out of a flute, I always like to compare that like drinking a can of Coke, right? It kind of sometimes makes you burp because of the bubbles. But glass number 3 actually minimizes the bubbles and brings out much more of the fruit component that the champagne has to offer. So this glass, everybody's home, still early. Maybe you want to try a rosé champagne or sparkling champagne, as long as it's Pinot Noir dominated. Try it out of glass number 3 compared to a traditional flute. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised of what beautiful aromas and taste component the glass has to offer. Now that is for Pinot Noir dominated champagne. For Blanc de Blanc or Chardonnay based champagne, we actually do have a glass recommended for that as well. So compared to a flute, a wine glass is definitely your best option for drinking champagne. So don't quote me, just try it, and I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Good? So, all right. So I need glass number 3 empty. So please park it in your empty glass number 1, because we need our Pinot Noir glass number 3 empty for our last experiment to try Cabernet Sauvignon. Good. So I'm doing a lot of talking, so I'm drinking a lot of water. Hopefully you guys are drinking a lot of water. I think that's the #1 rule in wine. You drink a glass of wine, you drink a glass of water to hydrate. So very, very important. Even though we're not driving, you still want to hydrate. All right, let's quickly recap. We've enjoyed 3 wines in 3 different glasses. Our glass number 2, which we enjoyed our Riesling, our dry Riesling. Glass number 1, we enjoyed our Oak Chardonnay. And we just a few minutes ago enjoyed our Pinot Noir out of glass number 3. So 3 different varietals, which I hope everybody knows, and very traditional grapes as well. And we're finalizing with glass number 4, which is meant for Cabernet Sauvignon. Now,
Sorry, Julio. Sorry, we have a question. Does the glass number 3 will work with Prosecco?
No, because Prosecco is being, well, I don't think, and again, I'm not exactly a wine expert, I'm not sure that Prosecco is Pinot Noir dominated, and that could be wrong. So we would probably recommend of a more traditional white wine glass, like glass number 2 for Prosecco.
Okay, thank you.
If it's a Pinot Noir dominated sparkling champagne, glass number 3 is perfect for it. If it's a Chardonnay based Blanc de Blanc, I would recommend glass number 2 for it, out of these glasses in front of you.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so glass number 4, Cabernet Sauvignon. I've chosen a very good partner of ours out of Napa Valley, 2016 Black Stallion Estate Winery. So again, depending on the variety that you have at home or the region they have at home, as long as it's Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, or Merlot based, glass number 4 is perfect for it. So on the nose, glass number 4. Again, because I've chosen a very well-known Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, very young, 2016. Beautiful black currant, lots of dark fruit for me, a bit of a hint of eucalyptus for me that I get on my wine that I've chosen. But what a very pleasant nose, right? Again, talking about nosing the wine, it's like meeting a person, as I've mentioned earlier. And the wine that I've chosen in this glass, I say, whoa, what's going on here? This is interesting. Now, before we take a sip from glass number 4, it is another red wine glass as opposed to the Pinot Noir glass that we just enjoyed. But Cabernet Sauvignon, as opposed to Pinot Noir, has lots of tannins with very little acidity. And glass number 4 is meant to balance the tannins. And if everybody at home enjoys Cabernet Sauvignon, I also dare to say that you must love espressos, because Cabernet Sauvignon has tannins, it has bitterness, and so does espressos, right? You get that bitterness. That's what we love about the drink. And Cabernet Sauvignon, as we know, has that characteristic. But sometimes the tannins can be a little bit too much, especially if you're drinking a very young wine. But glass number 4, especially in this collection with the performances we talked about, balancing the wine with the ridges here, allowing a little bit more of an oxygen explosion. Let's go ahead and nose the wine once more. And remember when we tried the Pinot Noir, it was right behind the tip of the tongue. Let's go ahead and experience glass number 4, and you notice that the wine is going to hit you dead center in the middle of the palate, balancing the tannins with a little bit of the acidity that the wine has to offer. Look at the tannins. Wow. Again, depending on what you have at home, a little bit of a different experience. But the fruit component that I have in my glass is absolutely outstanding. Again, I cool down my wines. It's so important to cool down your red wines because it definitely balances the tannins. It softens the tannins for sure. But for me, the glass that the wine that I just enjoyed, towards the middle of the palate, balancing the little bit of the acidity and the tannins that the wine has to offer, boosting the fruit component that the wine has to offer. And that's exactly all I got on my palate was fruit, tannins, lots of beautiful components that the wine has to offer, and not a dry wine for me specifically. Not a bitter wine, very pleasant wine for sure. Let's go ahead and take another sip because I didn't have lunch, by the way, so this is my lunch. So let's go ahead and take a sip and focus on the structure of the wine. Again, towards the middle of the palate, the acidity is there, the tannins are there, which we love in this wine, but all balanced. Towards the middle of the palate, and look at the beautiful fruit component that follows. So not a dry wine. The longevity of the wine is quite extended, as opposed to a very short-lived wine, which we're going to enjoy in a second. All right. Components of glass number 4 into your empty glass number 3 Pinot Noir. And the reason why I do this last experiment is because a lot of people, whether it be in your favorite restaurant or at home, pick glass number 3 because it's pretty, or it's a nice red wine glass. But we talked about how Pinot Noir is so different than Cabernet Sauvignon, and we enjoy the Pinot Noir out of glass number 3. However, let's see what happens on the nose of Cabernet Sauvignon out of glass number 3. This is the Cabernet Sauvignon that I ordered to be paired with my ribeye? I don't think so. Maybe the vintage is wrong. Maybe it's not a good vineyard. Whatever it may be, nobody blames the glass, right? Because on the nose, all I get is alcohol. 100% alcohol, and not exactly the beautiful fruit component that we had. Go ahead and experience glass number 4, empty. That is what I wanted to pair with my ribeye, just on the nose. But out of glass number 3, even though we enjoyed the Pinot Noir, all I get is alcohol. So how can I enjoy this wine on the nose? Be prepared to take a sip. Before you take a sip from glass number 3, remember we talked about the acidity in the Pinot Noir. Glass number 3 balanced it beautifully. But now we have a Cabernet Sauvignon, which has little acidity with much higher tannins. Let's see what glass number 3 does. The acidity is boosted. How do you tell? You see how your mouth immediately begins to water as soon as you take a sip from glass number 3? That is the acidity in the wine being unbalanced. And remember, we enjoyed the Pinot Noir in this glass, but Cabernet Sauvignon, absolutely a no-no in this glass. So here's a hint. For those of you who are inviting friends and family, or maybe your neighbors, to try this experiment at some point, maybe later today, if you had that nosy neighbor or maybe not that fun in-law, pour a Cabernet Sauvignon and have them try it glass number 3 and watch them cringe. Because you notice that the acidity levels kind of makes you have a glass of water rather than continuing to enjoy the wine. That's what I do with my in-laws. Don't tell her, she's upstairs. All right, back into glass number 4. Out of the appropriate Cabernet Sauvignon glass, let's go ahead and take our final nose. Ah, the wine is back. And let's take our final repair sip. Again, the tannins are there, the acidity of the wine, the fruit component, everything that the winemaker is focusing on day in and day out until that wine goes into the bottle is in this glass. The balance of the acidity, the tannins, but the fruit component that is in this glass, perfectly balanced. Now, I just enjoyed a 2016 wine, which in my book is a very young wine. Nobody ever talks really about decanting too much. And I've chosen 2 decanters here today. One is called an Eve decanter, which is here. And I've also chosen a Performance Amadeo decanter, okay? Which we'll talk about in a minute. Good question we're talking about earlier with regards to old world, new world. But when it comes to decanting wine, we're talking about age. These wines that we enjoyed today were very young. I decant all of my wines. I don't care if it's 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old. I don't drink 20-year-old wines, by the way. So I'm only drinking maybe anything 5 years or below, right? So I want to drink out of a decanter like this. This is called an Eve decanter. And let me show you how Eve works. Eve is a handmade decanter with multiple chambers. And in such a wine, where it's a young Cabernet Sauvignon, you notice that it has a long neck here and it has this chamber here which allows for the oxygen. But the best thing about Eve is that you can play a trick on your family, because when you want to drink the wine does not come out unless you have a special technique, which, by the way, this decanter has a DVD that comes with it to show you how to pour the wine out of it. And with a simple design like this, you notice that about 5 to 6 ounces of wine comes out in the glass. And you can beautifully pour the wine as such. And by doing so, there's actually a foam cap that is created in this glass, in the chamber here. And what that is oxygen. Oxygen is I'm pouring wine out of the decanter, oxygen is coming into the other wine, and it's aerating the wine. So we want something like this for young wines, because sometimes, as we talked about, tannins can be a little bit too bitter. especially in these young wines. So we want a decanter to agitate it, to allow as much oxygen as possible to soften the tannins and get much more of the fruit component. On the opposite side, you don't want to do that for an older wine, maybe something that's 20 years or more, because it's already had soft tannins. So maybe you want to go with something like this, where it does not agitate the wine so much. However, what it does do is that you know that on older wines, there's the sediments. So instead of the sediments going into that last glass and whoever gets that last glass starts choking because they have no idea that it's in there, you leave the sediments in the glass, in the decanter. However, you notice that once again, the wine beautifully pours. And this is the Amadeo Performance, which by the way, has the same optic design. I'm sorry, this is the Amadeo Fatto a Mano, which has the same optic design, but it also has a black, white, and black stripe. Hopefully everybody can see it as well. So handmade pieces to enhance your wine enjoyment. And I know I poured it out of a couple different decanters, but the idea is that coming out of these decanters, as opposed directly from the bottle, you definitely have some different aromas and taste component because you're aerating the wine much faster than letting it sit in the bottle or just in the glass by itself. So this is the Riedel Performance wine tasting. And to finalize glass number 4, I enjoyed a Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley. As we talked about earlier, you can enjoy a Bordeaux varietal, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc. That is it out of this glass. So I hope everybody enjoyed. Once more, let's pick up glass number 4. Cheers. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Anais. Thank you, Michael, Opimian Club members, for allowing me to be here today. And I hope everybody enjoyed. And I think we're going to open up to a few questions here in a minute or so. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have a question?
Merci beaucoup. Yes, I took French in high school, so je m'appelle Julio. Okay.
Wow.
Bubbles here. I'm called Bubbles because I'm borrowing my wife's computer. Just a quick question. These glasses and other let me get this right, Riedel glasses, they don't really do much for mediocre wines, do they? I mean, would they in fact enhance the faults, if you wish, of a mediocre wine? They're not going to make a mediocre wine better. That's a question.
Yes, very good point. I think a lot of people tend to think that they can buy a $2 chuck. I'm not sure if that's a term used in Canada. But to your point, some of the less quality wines, it will not be enhanced in an appropriate glass. The unfortunate part about a not a quality wine is that it will show its flaws, if any, in a Riedel glass. So it will not make it better, unfortunately.
I have a question. It's Carl again from Montreal. So Julio, so not everybody has the space or the budget to have a glass for every type of wine. Does Riedel have a series, maybe one white wine glass and one red wine glass that they would suggest for everyday use?
The answer is no. Unfortunately, I understand your point. Trust me, my wife hates every time that I bring home a sample, something new. She's like, where am I going to put this now, right? So the answer, unfortunately, is no, because you notice from one glass to the next how precise these glasses are for that specific grape. However, to be honest with you, out of these 4 glasses in front of you, I would say probably your most versatile glass is going to be your Riesling glass number 2. Okay?
It's actually what I was thinking. I was going to suggest the Riesling glass would be very versatile.
Out of the glasses in front of you, yes, those would be the most versatile glass. Correct. Yes. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's not one answer. Again, I mentioned earlier playing a game of golf. It's impossible to play with a putter or a driver or 7-iron throughout the whole course. So this is what these glasses do. Depending on what wine you're drinking, they're so specific to that grape that, again, we tried it. Cabernet into the Pinot glass. Didn't work. So it's very difficult for me to suggest one glass that may be an all-purpose when they are so diverse in its own. However, if I had to pick one glass out of these 4 glasses in front of me, I would probably pick glass number 2 to be kind of like my all-purpose in a way speaker.
And Julio, if I can chime in there, we've got a question as well about if you could pick 2 types for red and 2 for white, which would you choose? And I think that that's already been done by the company in that this tasting flight has been done specifically because it's the most versatile. I would
Yes,
suggest.
because we talked about a lot of different varietals that can go into these 4 glasses. These are more or less your 4 best universal glasses. I think everybody has enjoyed a Sauvignon Blanc or a Riesling. Glass number 2 can done that. Any Haut Chardonnay, glass number 1 handles it. Any Pinot Noir Burgundy does glass number 3, and our Cabernet Bordeaux is glass number 4. So I would say your 2 reds and 2 whites are 100% right in front of you. The only thing that's missing is champagne, but I think it's covered out of glass number 2 and glass number 3.
There, and if we can talk about how the Sauv Blanc glass is different, in the U.S., the Sauv Blanc glass is in this tasting flight rather than the Riesling, but we make such great Rieslings here in Canada. I think that that's the reason that Riedel Canada chose to make that change.
Yeah, Americans drink a lot more Sauvignon Blanc than Rieslings for sure, so that's why we also have a Sauvignon Blanc in the collection. It's a much smaller shape bowl size, but the rim diameter is very similar to what in front of you here. So the aromas are quite different, as you can imagine.
Right, and have I gotten them all, Annie? So you're keeping an eye as well?
I do see here.
For Zin, what would you use for Zin?
In this collection, actually, the Syrah glass that we have in this performance collection, we would actually recommend for Zin for that.
So I think that the SKUs that we're going to be offering to Opimian members in October continues to expand.
So
I told you I was going to complicate your wine for me, did I not?
And I'm sure that Wayne is delighted.
So Carl Bird here again. I decided to do an experiment, and I did you did the experiment of the Cabernet in the Pinot glass, and it didn't work. But the Pinot in the Cabernet isn't too bad. Just to, yeah, it's not as bad, and I think it's because you don't have as much. I think the acidity in the Pinot isn't the main component. The fruit is, and everything else, and there's not as big tannins.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that it. I think it worked well. It worked better in the Cabernet glass than the Cabernet did in the Pinot. So I mean, it's
I agree. Yeah. It's a good point. But you notice again that it's not to its full exposure in the Cabernet.
Not full, but it's not as muted as we did when we moved the Pinot into the Chardonnay glass.
For me, one of the worst experiences is the Cabernet in the Pinot glass. And if
it was gross.
And if you want something worse, by the way, you throw the Cabernet in the Haut Chardonnay glass. There's nothing worse on this planet.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try that.
Please don't. I'm just letting you know. I've done it for you, so take my word.
So in being Canadian, Julio, someone's asking about ice wine in which one of these glasses. I think we should add that SKU too, probably.
Yeah, to be honest with you, in this collection we do not, but we do have an ice wine glass that we introduced many years ago, and Wayne can probably confirm that because he's been here since about 1855. So Wayne, maybe you can talk to us about the Inniskillen glass that we had introduced way back when. That would be a perfect ice wine glass. I'm not sure if you want to join in this.
Go ahead, Wayne.
So, yes.
Anais, you can unspotlight me, I guess, so you can see Wayne. He's looking so good today.
You just mentioned the Syrah glass.
There he is.
I'm here. So yes, there was a glass that was designed in Canada, in Niagara-on-the-Lake, with that group headed by Donald Zeraldo and Riedel in our tasting to produce an ice wine glass. And especially it works extremely well with Cab Franc ice wine of note.
And Wayne, you and I can talk about that as we're choosing these wines for October, or sorry, these glasses for October, that I'm about to tell everybody about as soon as all the questions are done.
Exactly. Thank you.
Do either of you think that your spirits glass would be a good glass for the ice wine?
No,
it seems to be the right size and shape.
No, we wouldn't recommend it. I think The spirits glasses might be a little too narrow, and ice wine for us is a wine. So the glass that Wayne was mentioning a minute ago is more like a white wine glass than it would be more of a spirits wine glass. So I think you would lose the aromas.
It's also the suggested now rosé glass and sparkling glass, so it has some versatility to it.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, I think that might be it. And if I may just, I'd like to say a few things before we go. And that is, and it's probably no secret at this point, is that we're going to be offering Riedel glasses during CWeb
Riedel.
20. What, Riedel, like in needle, Riedel. Hey, I've been drinking.
We're evil.
This has been so successful that we wanted to offer it to all the members again for Christmas giving as well as for their own use. And I saw somebody say that his wife is having trouble finding places for these glasses. Well, you know, you can always build a room onto the house, or when you design your wine cellar, then you should add a place to store your glasses as well. You know, there's lots of solutions to that, right? So, but nonetheless, we have been going through the very vast Riedel catalog and choosing some SKUs that we can offer to you in October. So when CWeb, it's going to be on the web only. You'll be able to go to what used to be our gift card section on the website is going to be changed to gift shop. So it'll still have the gift cards there, but it'll also have these Riedel glasses on it for you. And we're definitely going to have the 2 decanters that Julio has shown you today. We're going to have the performance set like this, and then each of these glasses in sets of 2. So if you just wanted the Cab Sauv glass, then you could actually order 2 of those as opposed to having to order a set of 4 of the different varietals. We're also going to do something new to Riedel, is the Wine Wings series. So we're going to have those available to you as well. There'll be a tasting set. Look, they're holding one. Wayne's holding one up if everybody can see him. Could you spotlight Wayne, please, Anais? I'd want everybody to see the Wine Wings. Keep holding that up, please. And there it is. Yes. So that's the Wine Wings section. So we're going to be offering that as well, the tasting set as well as the individual varietal glasses for that. And it sounds to me like we're going to offer the white wine glass that's good for ice wine because we're all Canadian, so we should have an opportunity to purchase those. So looking forward to that and seeing what people like. We're going to offer gift memberships with those as sets so that you could order a tasting set with an Opimian membership to give to the luckiest people on your list, that sort of thing. So we've got some samples coming in where we're having it sandblasted, having the Opimian logo sandblasted into the glass. On the performance, correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, the performance, it's going to be on the bowl, and on the Wine Wings, it's going to be on the base, correct?
Oh, it'll be the opposite. It'll be the opposite.
Okay. So
because of the optic in the bowl on the performance, it'll be better on the base, and on the Riedel Wine Wings, it'll be better on the bowl.
Right. So you'll be able to
It'll
order
show
these
that.
glasses either plain as they are, as you've seen them and as they've arrived for this tasting, or with the Opimian logo sandblasted. I thought it was etching, but apparently the glasses melt in the kiln, so they have to do sandblasting instead to get our logo on it. So I think, and I'm looking to make sure that there are no other questions before we let you go. I can't thank you enough again, Julio Ruiz. This was brilliant. Really enjoyed it. I can't believe the differences, and you know, we're going to have to put out a list of any restaurants that are willing to carry out a series of wines for the wines that they serve. I imagine Michelin star, you're going to pay a little more for that restaurant because they've invested in the glassware, but it's so true how the glass makes such a big difference when you're eating out and you want to pair it. And when the somm comes to your table, you know, if you're at Jean Georges in New York City, hopefully they're giving you the correct glass with the correct wine. So again,
Jean Georges does.
Sorry, Jean-Georges. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Just so you know, that's my favorite restaurant in the world. And I absolutely love it. And I'll get back there.
He'll allow you starting September 30th to dine in 25%.
Yeah, and you know what? They have just announced that the New York Wine Experience run by Wine Inspector Magazine has been canceled. So I have taken my registration and put it to 2021. So hopefully we'll be able to do that again. I've been to a couple and they're absolutely amazing. And when that's available again, we will have an Opimian trip to that. We'll offer it to people to go with me to the New York Wine Experience, and then it's an experience. I'll tell you, it's something that I wouldn't miss for as long as I
New
can.
York will welcome everybody back.
Yes, that's right. And in fact, I have to commend Julio in being able to do this remotely, as he has done with all of us having different wines. Normally, this is all done in one room where we bring the wines to you and you've got the glasses, everybody's tasting the same. But I've said several times in these virtual tastings that it's a brave new world and we're having to do what we have to do. So,
Michael, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
So on this gift, so you've described two series of wines, of glasses that are going to be available in the gift shop. Does Riedel have like I know they're very good glasses. I mean, they're really high quality. Do they have a kind of like a budget friendly series that might be offered?
Well, I have to say that the ones that we've chosen are in fact budget friendly compared to some of the other lines that they have.
Okay.
And so they have other brands that they do, but at the present time we would like to stay with Riedel and have them done that way. And when you think about it, when this set was $149, I think, so you know, under $50 a glass. And when you think of the amount of enjoyment, and this is not a sales pitch, I just think that the amount of enjoyment that you get out of this, when you could buy a $50 bottle of wine that's gone in at once, where this is going to last you the rest of your life, and it's the value in that is just remarkable and I think unstateable, right? I'm a little passionate about it, especially after today, I have to say that.
Yeah.
So
finally, Michael and Anais, thank you so much for putting this on. This was fabulous. It was very exciting. I did this once before when I was an Opimian area rep in Yellowknife, and again, like, you know, I didn't forget, but it just reminds me that the glass does make a difference.
Absolutely, and you know, when we can do this again next year or in 2022, whenever things ease up for in person, we'll do these again in local chapters across the country. So, and we're looking forward to that very much. So from here in Kitchener, Ontario, thank you very much. Julio,
Sorry, I think we have a last question. Sorry, Maureen, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Thomas. Thank you very much. That was a really terrific presentation and very instructive. I had one question and one comment. I'd really like to know which of these glasses would work with Syrah, because I have an awful lot of Syrah in my cellar from the Opimian. And the other question was, it would be really very helpful if we could get a quick list of the grape varieties that go with these New World tasting glasses, because my cellar, for the most part, 99.1% is Old World. So it would be helpful to know, because it was hard to follow really quickly to see which champagnes of the rosés or the Cliquots or even the Opimian offerings and the grape varieties that would go with this set of glasses. So before we look at the next set of glasses to acquire.
And do you have a sherry glass?
And do you have a sherry glass?
Yeah, so let me start. I'll answer half of that question and give it to Julio for the other half. Is that we will put together from the recording of this, we'll write down what the varietals that work in each of these 4 glasses are. And then Julio, I'll have you answer the Syrah question.
Yeah, so we do, as I mentioned earlier, within this collection, we do have a Syrah Hermitage glass that would be perfect for your Syrah, whether it be New World, Old World, whatever you're talking about. So that would be perfect for that. And we do have a port glass, not in this collection, but we do have a port glass.
Port, not sherry?
How about
We have a
sherry?
glass for everything, in case you have not learned anything at this point. Yeah.
It's a port sherry glass.
We have a glass for Coca-Cola.
I think it's important to say, I think it's really important to say that with 10,000 members at Opimian, we can't be all things to all people all at once.
The
we will.
the irony of that response for Julio very quickly is we did a visit to the Vitlico Cave, and when you go through, you have this Gallo-Roman cave and with lovely Vitlico, and at the end of it, it's like a Coca-Cola bottling plant.
Telling you, we have a Coca-Cola glass. Listen, my kids drink milk out of Riedel glasses. What else can I say to
That's like the silver spoon.
you? More or less.
More or less.
The crystal spoon.
Very good.
Thank
All
you.
right, well, listen,
Thanks.
again, everybody, what a wonderful, wonderful experience. I hope everybody enjoyed as well. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Wayne, Anais, Michael, Opimian Club members, thank you very much for allowing us to be here. Enjoy. Thank you so much.
Again, cheers to everybody.
Thank you,
Cheers.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Really good job. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks from Tobermory.
All the organizers, Anais and everyone. Thank you.
Nice to see you again, Anais. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Anais.
You're welcome. Thank you.